Hey everyone, welcome back to Trail Talk for episode 7, our very special holiday show. Thank you so much for joining us. This is going to be a fun one. We're going to dive into the latest news and gossip in our sport, trail and ultra running, and then we're going to get straight into your questions. Some really fun, cool, spicy questions that you've asked via the Instagram broadcast channel and also on my Instagram stories. So we're going to tackle those. We're going to go around the panel, give you our hot takes and have some fun with it. So let's get on with the show. All right, guys, welcome back. Let's dive straight into the news. And first up on this week's show, let's talk about UTMB Thailand. I think the theme that I see from the results is Chinese athletes really dominated. This is the 100K results. I think one of the standout ones there on the male side that we'll all recognize is Ludo getting 6th place, getting himself entry, I'm sure, to UTMB Mont Blanc, which was probably the goal. On the women's side, we see Ragna Debatz in 2nd in the women's, and Hillary Allen getting 9th place. And we see from her Instagram that she's saying that was really the goal, just to get around it and get the finish. Brian, what do you think? Anything on the 100K that you think is noteworthy?
No, I think you covered it off well as far as, how the Chinese delegation really showed up and probably put some emphasis into this one. I could be wrong, but I just feel like maybe their season was structured in a way where they came in a bit more fresh. That's going to be interesting to see, I think, in the previous years. North American or top European runners would see these as kind of, they could just waltz in and kind of show up and have a better go at it for the podium. But certainly Chinese runners are showing they're formidable and not somebody to be taken lightly.
Looking at the 100-mile results, again, look at the women's field. Chinese top 5. I think the theme that I picked up from this is last year we didn't see a stronger performance from the Chinese, but they sort of had a bigger tail coming out of COVID, and this is really the year that they've really come out in force and picked things up again. And then on the men's side, Gediminas Grinius, long-time top-level Ultra Trail World Tour athlete and spends a lot of time in that region as well. He's Lithuanian, but very good runner, almost like Ludo Pomeré in a sense, the consistency of his top-level results at great races. And then Benat Marmasol, who, of course, was a top finisher in Hard Rock earlier on this year. Only other name there that at the top, Robert Hajnal, he had a podium at UTMB maybe 3 or 4 years ago also. Keely Henninger, she was 11th in the women's field. She said on her Instagram that her plan was to get a finish at the 100-mile distance. And yeah, I guess she did that. I guess we're going to find out whether she plans to toe the line at Mont Blanc or Western States or what her plans are next year. Troy, anything that you want to touch on?
Yeah, I mean, I really thought Keely was going to show up to win, and obviously that wasn't her plan. I will say, I mean, look out for the Chinese next year at Mont Blanc and at CCC. Next year, 2024 may be the year that the Chinese really take the world by storm. And I know they showed up in a major way in 2023 and just kind of put a punctuation point on both Western States or exclamation point, on both Western States and over in Chamonix.
Ricky, anything stand out from this race that you want to touch on?
No, I worry about the Chinese, because when the Chinese really set their minds to it, they can take over, man. I really think that they seem to be able to get the funding, and then they have the athletes, they have the caliber, and they can dominate like we've seen at the Olympics. And I don't think it'll be long before they're doing the exact same in the trail scene, which is brilliant for the sport. But it's frightening, because I'm telling you, those Chinese, they're tough. They are tough.
Let's move on. And Where would a drama and gossip show be without UTMB these days, eh? So moving from UTMB point 1 to UTMB on the second point, and that is UTMB Mont Blanc joining Threads, the meta platform, the ex-competitor, with what I'll say as an absolute flop, a complete belly splash. This one, they come out of the blocks thinking, hey, we're in Threads. Here's this cool video of Zach Miller coming through Chamonix to finish UTMB. And, as cool as Zach is to watch running, the comments on that post were absolutely fire. Let me bring some of those up on the screen. First one I'm seeing here was basically Zach Marion, topo athlete and sort of race commentator, I suppose you could say, posting in about Corin Malcolm, and then Jeff Colt, the on athlete, otherwise known as Easy Dog on the socials, also posting in about equal coverage and all these types of things, and UTMB quite wittingly, I think, coming back with Big Brother is watching you, son, which it's almost like menacing and almost funny as well. If they didn't have like a trail of destruction behind them in the past 2.5 months, then that would probably be funny. But it almost feels authoritarian at this stage. So, Brian, what do you think of this belly flop by UTMB on Threads?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I call it much of a belly flop. I looked at the comments when you guys showed us we'd be talking about this, and I mean, I don't know, maybe it was like 60-40 positive stuff about Zach and then critical about UTMB. It wasn't that bad, and I only saw about 30 or less comments, so it wasn't like there were, the big hordes of anti-UTMB sentiment either. And what you highlighted there kind of probably shows what it is. It's semi-loud voices. I mean, these are kind of, well-known runners that are being the most anti-UTMB, and then your average fan is kind of already over it and just kind of excited to see Zach Miller run. So that's what I took from it. I got a kick out of UTMB kind of not backing down and being confrontational with their responses. Showing the gentleman where to block UTMB was quite cheeky for what I liked out of it. Kind of reminded me of Elon Musk recently telling everybody to go fuck themselves if they didn't like it, right? Like that's what UTMB is doing now. So I mean, I love it. Let's just keep this thing going through 2024. It's given us plenty to talk about, and it's got some good entertainment value behind it.
It sort of stands out just because so few professional athletes or prominent voices in the sport have said anything about what's happened. So yeah, you're going to get people slating UTMB in all of the posts, and you'll also get the fans as well that are just looking at it at face value. But the fact that these people are sponsored athletes, Jeff Colt, someone that competes at UTMB races, I think that's what give it a slightly different angle. So they're maybe not speaking up verbally, but they've got the balls to put it in text. So I quickly had to screen grab that because I thought somebody may regret this in future, and now it's been captured for forever. Ricky, what do you think? Anything of note here?
It's good, right? UTMB, get on Threads. They know they're going to get a backlash because of all the shit that's been going on the last few months. They know that they're going to get a backlash, so they're willing to take that because they still know they're UTMB. They still know they're huge. They still know they have a huge fan base. And look, I'm included in that fan base as well. Like, I even just got an entry into TDS for 2024, and I got 3 or 4 comments to me saying, "Oh, no boycott this year," and I'm like going, "Oh, look, man, I'm not going to boycott it, because I'm a fan of UTMB and I want to be in Chamonix for UTMB week." So I'd be hypocritical to be saying, "Oh yeah, let's boycott this, let's boycott that." So again, you're going to have fans of UTMB, and then you're going to have, the people that are all up in UTMB's face. But isn't it fun? It's a bit of crack, and it's entertainment for us and for our trail talk.
I think that's very interesting. Like, one of the first comments you see is from just a normal fan, someone that's in the sport, that's just a fan of the sport, not a pro runner. But they say, I just want to see I don't want to see any content of you since you ruined our sport. And then UTMB, quite quick pro quo, I guess, tit for tat is definitely like, hi, thanks for your honest answer. Here's a solution to your problem. And it's a screen grab of how you can block, their account. A little feisty. I will say before this whole like explosion or implosion at UTMB and before the trail running versus UTMB, like really trail running community, ultra running community versus UTMB really exploded. Like a lot of people commented about how great UTMB's social coverage had been, how whoever's running their social is doing a stand-up job, doing an excellent job. And the content they were putting out was really good. And I could just always think as someone who's had to create content calendars, had to do some of this stuff on the back end for organizations. I'm like, that person is just hating their job, right? I mean, they love their job, right? But they're hating their job because whenever you have to deal with that kind of conflict through social channels, it can get, depending on the way your organization wants to handle it, it can get a little spicy, it can get a little interesting. I do want to bring up that it wasn't just their Mount Blanc by DACA account. They also launched a UTMB World Series account, and they posted some content of Courtney, and it was very similar. Lots of hate from the trail running community, telling them how they need to give Gary's race back and how they need to be better and all that stuff. And so I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good that they see it from multiple angles. I think it's good for their organization because I feel like I don't know if the Pilettis really get to understand and see the angst like we feel at least in America on the trail running community, and the more it's being personified out on social channels, the more it's coming at all these different angles, like the easier it is for them to see it. And I think that's important because they are kind of the lifeblood of UTMB. They set the culture for the organization, and hopefully they can push back against Ironman a little bit from the inside out and help to make some of the changes that are going to be needed if we're going to kind of move forward in any kind of like kumbaya moment together. So
it's not happening. The Pilettis are disconnected, and Ironman are running the by UTMB show. The patience has run out in that, and so is this segment. So we'll move swiftly on from that. Let's just touch on pro athlete moves, a few that I've seen quite recently. The first off being a new signing by Norda. They've brought on young stud Matt Seidel from San Francisco, 12:20 something at CCC, 20, what was it? I've got a note of it somewhere. I think it was like 24th place or something like that. So, Ricky, you've maybe got the most relevant experience. You weren't that far behind Matt, to be fair, in terms of finishing time at CCC. Another one that I noticed, which is actually a really sweet signing by Solomon, is Madalina Floria, very fast Romanian woman that took it out hard at the front. She did have a bit of a fall in the race, but she finished a very strong third in her very first ever Golden Trail Series race. The other person that I wanted to mention was David Hedges parting ways with Norda, which I was surprised about. I'm not sure if I was disappointed, more maybe surprised was the overall feeling there. David is an absolute crusher, FKT monster, and kind of suited the Norda satisfied vibe that he had going on there. He's keeps his head down, smart dude, absolute weapon in the mountains, and if anyone is unsure of who David Hedges is, just Google Hedges versus Max King from Breakneck Trail Race a couple of years ago in New York State. And the follow cam was immense for the last 2 miles of the race. Certainly a bit of like a Jason Walmsley type of vibe. Brian, anything on those on any of those moves?
No, I met Seidel at Javelina this year. He was out there actually right next to my crew setup. He was out there crewing and pacing for Preston Cates who came down from Flagstaff to run Javelina 100-miler. So yeah, really, really cool guy. And then I think Norda also picked up Rich Lockwood, so another mountainous crusher. which was a nice signing for them as well. But yeah, I mean, these signings are kind of fun to talk about if you're like uber focused on the sport. I just wish these brands did more like to storytell. I know Norda, just following their social medias, you know, they do good stories on some of the races or some of the projects that their athletes take on. Craft is another one I think that's really starting to do well with athlete development. And, you know, I mean, we've got some of the best imagery out there with these athletes and the places they run, and so much untapped opportunity to present the sport to a grander audience. They just, you know, they need to invest in these athletes and storytelling better.
Yeah, I think Norda and Satisfy tell a great story about their brand more than about the athletes. That is something that is kind of unique to the more boutique brands. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing. I obviously I like it. We are turning into the Norda show at this stage. I don't think we go through a show without mentioning Norda and Satisfy, but it is what it is. But yeah, Ricky, what do you think? What do you think of Madalena? Good signing there.
Yeah, she's a beast. Actually, she's a beast. I think that's a super signing from Solomon. Like, we'd say where Norda come in and they sign Sid, it's kind of like, yeah, over here, nobody's really going to know who that kid is. Like, but he's got like a super fast 5K. I know that's kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things when you're talking about a 100K race or something, but he's got something like a sub 15-minute 5K, which is rapid for a trail runner. But the thing is with somebody like I think Florine or the Romanian girl is kind of more known over here, and it's kind of like, who's going to snap her up? You know, she's going to be good, she's going to be great. But Norda come in and they come in the shadows and they steal somebody that nobody really knows, well, especially over here in Europe. But also, like, they're a lot of their athletes that they do pick up, they have like no social media, they have no following, they have no nothing. And I think that's very, very cool and very, very niche, but very, very typical of a boutique brand to come in and just sort of like grab some young kid off the street and say, yeah, we're backing this kid and we're whipping a pair of shoes on him and he's going to crush the trails, but you've never heard of him. And I think that's really cool, because that's kind of like that brand. It's kind of like they're pushing that brand, and it's like that Satisfy kind of vibe, and it's just cool. It's like they're getting skateboarders to run on the trails or something, you know. It's just super cool.
North Americans love a 5K PR for trail runners. They love to know a track pedigree or something like this. But that's the background of the sport of running. Troy, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, Ricky actually mentioned something that I was going to bring up, is just Seidel I have more followers on Instagram than Seidel, and that's saying a lot, right? Because I don't really have a lot of followers on Instagram. How do you even know that? But say what? Because I checked it out. Because as soon as I saw he was signed, I looked and I was like, well, I know who he is, because I know he's fast and I know he's got wheels and like he's an up and coming talent. I looked at his social and I was like, interesting, 1,500 followers on Instagram. And then I started thinking about it, and Ricky, you made a really good point. It's like these brands that know how to tell good stories, this is an opportunity for them to elevate these individuals as well. And that's kind of what some of, if you look at what the North Face did with their, not the crop they have now, but like when they signed Debo, when they signed Corey, when they signed all of these athletes like a decade ago, they like help to elevate them and help them become better storytellers. And that's kind of like, I think that's something, going back to Wolf, you said it too. Like, I think the brands need to do a better job of showing and creating an audience around their athletes. And then you create something that is a much more reciprocal relationship between the customer and the athlete and the brand. So I just think that that's a very interesting approach to take. And it's also like, if you're Norda and you're small and you're up and coming and you can't afford to like sign crazy contracts, but you can afford to maybe pay for some flights and put shoes on people's feet, it's a good way to start too. Because, these guys, I'm sure Norda doesn't have, the kind of budget to be locking in like even low 5-figure contracts for all of their athletes. So go ahead, Wolfie.
Yeah, I was going to tell you just on a tangent. I think Seidel earned his contract at the Mammoth Trail Fest when he was ripping up and down the trails in the banana suit. Pretty sure that's what caught Norda's attention, and they're prototyping a Dyneema banana suit. So more to come on that one.
Love that.
Very cool.
I think with SMEs, it's even more important to work with and do business with people that you like. And the vibe I get from the likes of Norda and to a degree also Satisfy, although they're a little bit more aloof in what you can read into, I think they like him. I think they've met him. I think they like him. They already know he can run fast. And let's see what we can do with this. So, and they're also giving this guy a little bit of a platform, an opportunity, and who knows what he'll come back and do next year at UTMB. That was his first time there, and he was 24th or 25th or whatever it was. So I think it's exciting. I think it's a good sign-in. So good on them. Moving on, we had viewers submit questions on our broadcast channel and also through Instagram stories. So we got quite a lot of questions, some crossover questions, some spicy questions, some interesting questions. So let's rip into the first one. What could Courtney's 2024 epic plan be that would outdo 2023? Who wants to go first on this one?
I want to see Courtney kind of chill out a little bit. I want to see her set the course record at Leadville, and I want to see her demolish the Nolan's 14 route. And I think if she can do those two things, she can just kick her feet up on the couch, hang out at home, and just chill and let trail running come to her, And I think after what she did last year, and especially if you remember, she also set an untouchable record at Reunion Island months before the end of the year, So if you look at just what 2020 end of 2022 rolling into 2023 looked like for her, she raced a lot, she did a lot of hard things, she went to the well, and I want to see her kind of replenish the water, so to speak, and kind of take a little bit of what would be considered a down year for Courtney, take on two epic challenges and knock them out of the park.
No time for a down year in the prime of your life. Look at what she can stack on top of each other in a whole year. She doesn't need a whole year. Chill out. A nice, quiet Christmas, doing some cross-country skiing. She's going to be ready to rip come the start of the year.
I think Courtney is going to lead by example and boycott UTMB and go on to win the World Trail Series.
The World Trail Majors?
Yeah, the majors, the World Trail Majors. Yeah. I'm not sure. How in the name of God do you top the year that she's just had? It's insane what she did. I really don't know. I'm excited to see what she's going to do, but man, oh man, I don't know how she's going to top that, if you can top that. What do you think, Wolfie?
For your very point, guys, she's doomed to have a season that just doesn't live up to that, right? Because that bar she set is unsurmountable, because she hit all the three premium races. She'll do things that are epic, no doubt, but it just won't have the cachet. So what I say is that she goes to Ironman. She could serve as the olive branch to build harmony, unity between the fractured sport of trail running. If Courtney just says, I'm going in, I'm racing Ironman this year, guys, we need to have this kumbaya moment. Do people love Courtney more than they hate UTMB? I think they do. And so I think love triumphs hate, and Courtney can be the person that saves trail running if she wanted to.
Very interesting. So you don't believe that there's any desire for her to build a legacy, which would mean going back to a UTMB Mont Blanc or a course record at Hard Rock? What about going battling the top men in Hard Rock?
Yeah, I mean, she could do all that, but I think we're making things sound more exciting than they are, right? Where it's because of what she did last year that we're having to say that she's now got to go try and compete against the men, which, with all due respect, if there is a premium men's field, I don't think, on their good days and her good days, she's contending for the top three. I mean, I don't think that's a hot take. So, I mean, she could go do that, but I mean, again, we're artificially creating some sort of hype around things that are very specialized to her and not the sport. Her legacy is done. She's the GOAT. She's done. She's generational talent. It's game over. I mean, Ann Trayson is in a generation that is uncomparable to where Courtney's running now. And unfortunately, I think where the generation goes beyond Courtney is where she deserves to be competing. So she's stuck in the middle right now. And I mean, she can do whatever she wants. She's going to have a great year next year, but it just won't live up to the same kind of in the headlights type of awe that last year was.
I think it's all like it all depends on her love for the sport. It's like when your mate Killian, you know, when he was 19 or 20 years of age, he wrote a list of all the races he wanted to win before he retired, and I think he had it in about 2 years' time before he was 22. He had them all won. He had every one of them won, and then he went and he started doing the Summits of My Life because he had to find the joy in his life again, because everything else was that little bit too easy for him. And it's kind of the same for Courtney. It's like wherever Courtney goes in the 100-mile distance anyway, you know, it's like she just crushes it, and she's killing it everywhere. So it all depends on where she wants to go from here, what she wants to do to challenge her. So maybe she'll do more like FKTs, maybe she'll do more 250, 300-mile kind of races. The sky's the limits for Courtney at the minute. You know, she can do whatever, and it'll probably turn to gold.
Perfect segue, my guy, because that is exactly what Courtney should be doing. Courtney needs to go and win Cocodona. That's a nice season opener early in the year. I think the people want to see it as well. It's a high-profile event, bigger and bigger every year. Great coverage, some of the best coverage in the sport. Not a UTMB event, loads of scope to do anything else. I mean, Courtney could do Cocodona and then go on to do Hard Rock and still podium at Hard Rock. Open the season with Cocodona. People want to see it. Aid Station Fireball put up a poll on Twitter, said, what do you want to see Courtney do? And the votes were coming through. I forget what it was. I'll stick it up on the screen, but it was the majority of the votes were coming through for Cocodona. So I think Courtney could see that. I think that's what she should do. So I think that would be fun. I also think, just on your point, and then we'll move on. Can you really, for a legacy, you have to stack depth into it. And although she's already done a lot and course records and won all the best races, it doesn't beat winning all the best races multiple times. So, you know, I think we got to see, is there still a pull to UTMB Mont Blanc? Because there's nothing else around that time of year that could be in the equation. Moving on, and to the Troy segment is what we're calling this one. Trail Troll Runner of the Year. I don't know what I'm saying. The
T-Troy.
Anyway, moving on to our Troy segment of Troll of the Year. And I'm going to open this up for Wolfie to give us his hot take on this. Who you got as the biggest and best troll of the year in our sport?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that I kind of left on the tree so you guys can pick it off. But I don't know. I felt like the USTF, the governing organizing bodies that take care of these world trail championship teams for each country, these guys are garbage. You know, the type of support, which is nothing, that they give to these athletes. I know Scott Traer was vocal about this all year. You know, the type of money that, you know, obviously is going into these guys' pockets. We're talking millions for the top of these organizations, at least in the United States. I don't know about other countries, but I'm pretty sure other countries have to pay their own way, get very limited support with kits. So, I mean, that's a freaking joke, that you work so hard to represent the singlet for your country and they give so little back to these athletes. So they are definitely the troll of the year for me. And I hope we keep beating that drum loud, because again, when you contrast it against UTMB, like, these are actual organizations as well that deserve some mud to get slung their way. And yet it's, I don't know, maybe not as popular or easy for people to speak out against, but they deserve a lot of ridicule now as well.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, good point. It's an organization. They're getting away with it, but also it means that they're probably tone deaf to it all, and they don't have a clue that people are talking about it, and they probably just brushed off the little blip in trending that Scott Treyer created with that post and video and things. So yeah, interesting. Troy, who have you got as the troll of the year?
I had to think about this for a second, and in jest, my troll of the year is his name is Isaac Hartstone, and I was really unfortunate to find out that they actually dismantled him. But he was a 15-foot troll made out of wood, reclaimed wood, on a trail in Breckenridge, Colorado, that was put together by this artist Thomas Dambo. And so that's 20-foot trail. I mean, 20-foot troll. In the middle of the woods. That's a pretty big troll. But in all honesty, I have a tie. For me, it was between Iron Man and just the shenanigans they pulled off this year, and then Wolfie here with his like ridiculously spicy hot takes on Trail Talk. And so I think between the two of them, I think Iron Man may have just outkicked Wolfie there at the end of the finish line. But I just in general I feel like we have to, I just feel like they have to do better, and they put a mark on their chest, obviously, but they're like similar to what you said about U.S. track and field, Aaron. Like they're just tone deaf, and they don't really care. And why would you if you're just raking it in and you have the ability to just step on the little guy and just keep going, and no one seems to. I mean, people care, but we're so fractured as a community. We can't quite figure out how we're going to come together and kind of combat that. It's the same thing that USATF has been doing for 3 decades. Just raking it in. So I would be remiss if I didn't call out Iron Man and their shenanigans in North America this year and in trail and ultra running. So
thought we were going to get through a segment there without mentioning UTMB, and I really do wish you had doubled down on the actual troll, because I was wondering where the fuck is this going. But Ricky, who you got as the troll of the year?
Yeah, I was going to come in with what Troy was saying about Iron Man, and then I decided no. When he started talking about Wolfie, I thought, yeah, Wolfie actually has been a troll in my life since I joined this Trail Talk, because I'm actually hearing people talk about short trail races in the sub fucking ultra, and it's wrecking my head. That's actually, I think that's more annoying than people talking about UTMB lately. So Wolfie for me has been the biggest troll of 2023. Sub ultra.
Perfect. I think at this stage Wolfie owns the sub ultra term more than Debo, and I will not mention it again. Well, I mean, I gotta bring out someone who maybe he could be troll of the year 2021, 2022 and 2023, because just looking back at the things that the people that he's gone after, think back to the months of passive aggressive posts against Mike McKnight and his keto low carb diet. He's gone after nose breathing. He's gone after uphill athletes' aerobic deficiency syndrome. He's gone after fasting. And it's obviously Jason Koop. And I'm not throwing any shade on his coaching abilities. I have no experience in that. I'm sure he's very good. But he just has a terrible way about complaining about things that he doesn't agree with. And you have to think that you don't know everything, but he appears to know everything and want to make sure that you don't say anything contrary to his opinion. So I'm giving him my troll of the year and probably multi-year champion at this point. And in the interest of time, because we got loads of cool questions, let's move on from that one. So, Troy, we're going to start with you. And what's your dream race and why? Just one race, and you don't have to go too deep on this, but give it to us.
Yeah, for me, it's so trite, but like Hard Rock is a dream race for me. I know it's going to be a decade before I get into it. Why? It's really hard. It's in the mountains of Colorado. It's a place I've spent some time, but I've never really got a chance to explore. I think part of it is that it's like just a completely inaccessible race for me, because I'm going to have to qualify, I'm going to have to run qualifying races every other year for the next decade in order to kind of get in. So it's definitely that long-term goal that when you finally get your name picked, it's going to feel really sweet and it's going to be really special. So,
Brian, what about you? Tell me it's not Javelin 100K.
I mean, I'm going to dream big, right? I mean, you said it's a dream. There's no expense spared here. So for me, I'm going to go with any sub-ultra in Ireland so I can go out there and just further spread my gospel out there with my boy Ricky. So any sub-ultra in Ireland, I'm going to go. But no, seriously, in any of the UTMB series in Chamonix, I wouldn't even be picky enough to choose the main one. So yeah, just get me out there on race week, and man, I don't even have to run the race. Just let me go to Chamonix on race week and soak it all in. That would be a dream.
Start saving, because never mind the price of the flight, the beds are expensive, more than Christmas week in Chamonix. Ricky, what you got?
Wolfie, it's okay. You can come to Chamonix and stay in a tent with me. It's €13 a night, man. It's €13. I have a big tent. We won't even have to share the same mattress, man. I'm telling you, it'll be sweet, hey. It'll be sweet.
No
but
spooning?
For me, no spooning. For me, I don't know, like it's probably going to sound very obvious, yeah, but it's Western States all day long for me, because like for me, everything that is super cool and super uber and just epic about trail running, I associate it with Western States. I associate it with Jim Walmsley bombing it down Cal Street. I associate it with Jared Hazen coming in second, because I'm a big Jared Hazen fan. Like just the top 10 finishers in it are always so strong. It's such a super fast race. It's just so cool. And the fact that there's only like 364 people in it, there's more fans around the place. Everyone's got pacers. Everyone's got like their families there crewing for them. It's just super cool. Like, and every YouTube video that I've ever watched has just made me want to race there more and more. So hopefully someday, while I can still run kind of fast, I'd really like to get into it. I don't want to get into it when I'm like 56 years of age and my legs are gone to shit, like, because that's no crack then, like, So Western States, if you're listening, just let me in, man. Let the little Irish lad in.
I'd like to see you race that one too, but I think at 56, I think you'd still enjoy it. Yeah, and Wolfie, I do have to comment that you'd have to give up your age group podium if you came to Ireland, because I think you'd get slayed over here, dude. We got deep competition.
I'll bite my tongue. Yeah, the Irish audience already dislikes me enough. We'll just leave it at that.
And we got to get you some sub-ultra shoes as well, man. We got to get you some sub-ultra shoes.
Don't say those words.
I got that 002. We got the 002, so we're good.
For me, I have a real desire to run Hard Rock. I would love to run that race. The 100-mile mountain distance is the gold standard in ultra running. There's no more challenging distance out on your own, being self-sufficient. Fuck it up and you can die. Look after yourself, carry your kit. It's just the dream race. I wouldn't be so happy with the altitude, but yeah, I would just have to make a long holiday of it to get prepped for it. So I'll not wind too much about Hard Rock, but for me that's the race for me.
Well, Aaron, let me know whenever you get in, if it's the same year as me, and even if not, I've got family in Breckenridge that live in 10,000 feet, and we can carve out 4 weeks there, no problem. So
your turn to spoon.
No, they got plenty of
anything for Hard Rock, baby. All right, coming in with the next question. Had a couple of people reach out with this question, similar questions, permutations of this. How can we unite after the drama of 2023? And is it even possible as the sport grows? Is this drama just a result of new people coming into the sport that are a bit less connected to the heritage and the historical sort of culture? So, Wolfie, What do you think on this one?
Been lots of foundations laid in some pretty strong concrete. So I think it would take an abrupt change of direction, and the tonality and the words that are chosen from both sides to come together. I think one side needs to probably look themselves in the mirror and understand they're probably more alike Ironman than they are dislike. When you look at it juxtaposed against like the rest of the like non-sporting world, like these elite trail runners have a lot in common with your elite Ironman racers. The discipline, the dedication to the sport, willing to invest any cost or expense to be number one, goals to be the best at their sport, some sense of ego, right? We all have to have a little ego if we're going to be number one in a sport, amongst all your other racers, while also, wanting to, see them have their best day. So I think that's the starting point, is like step off the podium, step off the soapbox for a second. Understand you probably have more in common with Ironman competitors, and then the way that you speak to the rest of the trail running audience. Let's look for uniting words rather than just words that can only put somebody else on their heels to defend themselves. From both sides, it's guilt to be assigned to both sides.
I do have this conflict in my own head, and I don't think it's totally clear yet. Wilfie, you do mention golf quite a lot. Obviously, you're a fan of something to do with that sport, and we hear that triathlon Ironman has a demographic overlap with golf. That age group, a bit of spare cash to go on destination races and stuff. And while I can say, yeah, I can't hide that I am that person that can fly to a country and do a race and pay for an Airbnb or whatever it is, and buy a new pair of shoes and all this shit. I don't identify with triathletes or even cyclists who I feel have a different there's a different feel to that sport than there is with trail running, even in the sense that there's a different feel almost to runners and trail runners. So I think it's a head scratcher for me, but I'll give you another go on this after we hear from Ricky. What do you think?
I don't know what. I think what Wolfie said about Courtney Dauwalter, I think it's a lot of power lies with the pros, and if we're talking about, are we talking about sort of like reconnecting as a trail community, the way that we've fallen away from each other, with Ironman falling out with certain races, and it's just all going to shit, and people are like pro UTMB and against UTMB and that. Like, I don't know what's going to unite us. I think, unfortunately, like, not everyone's going to agree on everything. So I don't know. It's a tough decision. I actually don't have an answer for that question because I don't really know. Like,
I think UTMB is the catalyst for all of the drama. They seem to be the center point or closely linked to everything that's happened this year, and it feels like we've just sort of gone from one thing to another, and they've been somewhat involved. Whenever I just think about this, I think, are the trail runners in France talking about this? Are the trail runners in Spain talking about the drama? Is this something that's just coming from North American culture, where I think there's maybe a bit more drama, a bit more of that maybe going on anyway? So I don't have the answers. I'm not sure, and I'm just kind of thinking about it in my own head. Troy, what do you think as our resident hippie?
North America is the battleground, right? That this is where the fighting is happening, right? If it's a war, if there's a war outside, going on outside, it's like it's in our backyard over here in North America. Like, we're the ones that are having to deal with the ramifications of the Ironman UTMB partnership in a way that hits home, in a way that's something that we have to deal with as a community. And I will say it's the North American trail running community that's been the most vocal and the most polarized in this. I think I agree with you. I think, why would someone in Spain care what UTMB does if their goal is just to run a couple local UTMB races, which were bought out, and like the races that no one's complaining in Spain, no race directors complaining in Spain about like what their business dealings with UTMB, so you don't really necessarily have those issues. I think power lies in having leadership. And that's something that Ironman has in their organization. So they have a focal point in which to direct strategy to figure out how they're going to accomplish their goals. And I think that in trail running, we don't have that. We don't necessarily, we have a couple of voices who try to stand up as leaders in the community, but we don't necessarily have, like, from a pro standpoint, the Pro Trail Runners Association has been very silent on this in a way that really it frustrates me as someone who really cares about what I perceive as the culture in our sport, to not see the pros joining together to try to have a seat at the table that allows them to dictate the terms of engagement. And they haven't really done that. And at this point, we'll see. And I know it, some things do take time, and I know it takes time to formulate a plan. I know it takes time to execute on those things, but a formal statement from the Pro Trail Runners Association with all this stuff has been left out and hasn't happened. And it's kind of disheartening for me. And I don't know how, a bridge is going to be needed here, but I think at the same time, it's like the only way it changes is if the pros really take a little bit of the power back, if they have honest conversations with their brands and say, hey, we would like to compete somewhere else. We don't think UTMB should be there's so many things that have to happen. It's it's kind of a Venn diagram here. At the end of the day, the community can definitely continue to stand up and make their voice be heard. Cheekily, maybe UTMB can start by firing whoever's doing their social media, so they can be a little bit nicer to the people throwing shade on them. So
that's one of the good things about UTMB. Whoever does their socials, the rails during the summer were straight fire.
Yep, they were.
I don't think trail runners in Spain, as an example, are that put out by the change in the UTMB World Series, because that trail running culture isn't really being changed by it. They've had the short distance races, they've had the ultra distance. The reality is there's not a big difference for UTMB to come in, put races on there that allow them to qualify and come to Mont Blanc. But that's not the system that is in North America. You're homegrown, grassroots, family feel small events, and the sporting type trail running races in Europe are very different. So there's no natural flow from the 50 people 50K and a by UTMB event. They're just very different feel, whereas a 30K in the Pyrenees and a 30K by UTMB is just a corporation putting on a similar type of sporting event. Rolfie, what do you think before we close this out?
I don't get why we have to disassociate ourselves so much with triathlon or cycling or any of these other endurance-based sports or Ironman. I mean, I get the organization and the professionalization of the sport, but I have more in common with somebody that wants to dedicate themselves to pursuing Ironman than I do somebody who wants to sit on the couch and watch TV or play video games. These are more of my endurance brothers than anybody who chooses not to live an active, fit lifestyle and pursue big, audacious goals. You watch the Ironman broadcast in Kona, and they're going to tell stories like we're calling out for Western states to do, for our own sport to do. They're going to have they're going to follow participants in Kona. They're going to have your eyes welling up with tears. The father who carries his paralyzed son through the entire race, right? We can't just judge the entire sport and say that they're all pompous assholes with $18,000, bikes and all this other, ridiculous prejudice that we throw at the sport from our glass house. They're endurance athletes as well. And there's a lot of participants in these sports that are good people. And, I can't imagine how I would feel about trail running if I was on the other side of the fence as an Ironman participant. And I'm just a good guy seeing them just sling around the sport that I do, right? That's what I'm saying. If we just step back off the soapbox and, again, love is going to trump hate. So if you can find a way to, as a pro athlete, speak softer and kinder, it's probably going to be better in 2024. But keep doing what you're doing, because it seems to be working, right? The sports it's at its best right now. No, we're eating our own. right? So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, interesting. Look, I don't think it's that we don't identify or have connection or similarities to some of these, triathletes and Ironman athletes and things like that. I think it comes down to, like, on a very small level, a cyclist wouldn't say hello to you if you pass them, but a trail runner might stop and have a conversation and say, "Hey, what are you doing today?" So there's a different culture in that sport. Yes, we have an endurance passion, but it feels like there's a disconnect as well. Anyway, moving on, lighter topic. Thankfully, no UTMB involved in this. What running shoe do you wish you still had that you loved? Trail or road, but preferably trail.
It's got to be the EVO Speed Goat or the Evo Speed Goat. That was an incredible shoe. So it was basically a lighter Speed Goat 4. No, yeah, a lighter Speed Goat 4 with 5mm lugs on it, a 5mm drop, a matrix upper. When matrix uppers weren't really heard of, I think the EVO Speed Goat was probably the first shoe, even slightly before Solomon, with the matrix upper. It was a super light shoe, a little bit of flex in the toe. It was light, it was fast, it did everything. I actually still have it. I still have it downstairs, but unfortunately, like, the heel is ripped off it. But an incredible shoe, one of the best shoes I ever wore, and I wish that Hoka continued it. And I'm sure all the Hoka fans that are watching this would agree with that as well, because it was one of the best Hokas ever made.
Man, you really love a good lug, don't you? You're really into lug depth. That's what I'm learning about you. If it's not 5mm, you're not even at the races.
Yeah, if it's not 5mm, I told you, you're on your hole, man.
Useless on your hole.
He walks around in his he's walking around in his wife's heels.
Troy, tell me it's an ultra.
Well, I was gonna say, as a guy who spent the last decade running an ultra, it would have to be an ultra shoe. But I'm trying to move on here, man. I'm trying to move past that. That being said, the original Lone Peak ones in that gray with the yellow accents were probably some of my favorite shoes ever, and I wish I would have bought like 8 pairs just to kind of kick around, wear around. And then Ultra actually did a 10-year anniversary of that shoe like 2 years ago. I didn't end up buying any of them. I did buy a pair. It was kind of like, they weren't the same shoe, but it was the same look. It wasn't the exact same shoe. It was like a retooled version of it. I'm moving on, man. I don't honestly have a trail running shoe I'd like to bring back. I like my time with Ultra, I'll say that, but I'm like ready to find a new brand to run in. So I know we're like Norda centric over here, but I have definitely been loving my 001s, and I definitely want to give Normal some love here soon too.
I can see that you're definitely leaning hard on the influence and Troy, and you want to be Norda fam. I can see it in your heart. For me, I gotta talk about the La Sportiva Captiva. It was a shoe that I absolutely loved. Maybe 2018 through 2020, I wore this shoe so much. It was about 250 grams. It wasn't a super light shoe or anything, but it was a lighter feeling shoe than La Sportiva would normally do. It had a sticky rubber, but I also got it resoled with Vibram whenever those lugs wore down. I even wore this shoe for the first 100 miles of Bigfoot 200. Nice space in the toe box, just a super shoe. And also they did an all black colorway, and the only blue bit was the La Sportiva name and the outsole. So kind of loved that shoe. I'm a La Sportiva fanboy.
Aaron, are you about to shed a tear, bro? Like,
I still have that.
Did you get married in that shoe, or did you walk down the aisle with that shoe on?
No, but you make a lot of mistakes on wedding day. I actually clean shaved for like the first time in 10 years on my wedding day. So when I look at, prior to that I had a beard. And so when I look at my wedding pictures, it's like, who the fuck is that guy? Never been clean shaven. And then I'm clean shaven on wedding day. So it's kind of weird. But anyway, moving on. Give us your shoe,
yes,
Wolfie.
Yeah, honestly, and this is being 100% genuine. I never had a trail shoe that I really I had committed to. I was always bouncing around. So, clearly everybody knows I wear Norda now. But like road shoe wise, oh man, if I could go back to that Hoka Clifton 1, I don't think it stacks up to how great road shoes have progressed now. And I think we would all admit, like, if we go 10, 15 years years back into shoes. Like we don't want to really run in them. We just miss that sentiment, that nostalgic feeling of it. But not even when the Clifton 1 came out, it was like I got it in like I got like an old stock when 3 was out, and everybody was like clamoring for it. It was like the hottest shoe. Like if Stock X was around then, like the Clifton 1 would have been like a $700 shoe. Everybody wanted that thing, right? Like I can remember everybody calling for it year after year after year, and they finally released it, and it just wasn't the same. So yeah, that Clifton 1 was sweet to run in.
I have one. It's in the attic.
After the show, Ricky, you can get that shoe out
Yeah.
and, you know,
You
have
get
a
a
wee cup of
picture.
tea
You
and
get a
just
picture of it. Yeah.
reminisce.
With the orange
Yeah.
mud vest.
Yeah.
Put on your Cliftons in the. Oh, he's still got it.
I think that'll do us for the Christmas show. Where the fuck is he gone?
He's
One
jumping in the
second.
attic, man. He's jumping in the attic.
Santa needs his elves back, so where's he going?
You can't.
Oh, Evo Jaws.
Oh,
Evo Jaws. That is the best short distance shoe ever. 8 mil lugs. I like a good lug, lads.
Okay, guys, moving on. I think we should cover FKT of the year because I like a good FKT. There's a great story around an FKT, but stuff like a Bob Graham round, that type of stuff, that just fascinates me. So I'll kick us off with FKT of the year. I think there's been some great ones. There's also been some boring ones. So I'm going to give you what is undeniably the best, but also an honourable mention of my kind of favourite. You couldn't have a number one FKT of the year without giving it to Carl Sabe's PCT. What an absolute devastation. Did I steal your one, Ricky? But I mean, everyone should pick this. You know, it's long, it's iconic route. He absolutely nailed it. The documentation or the videography of it was fantastic. There's a great YouTube video of it online. So that's a great one. I'm not going to dig too much more into that. But the other one that I think was an absolute standout was David Hedges' Nolan's 14, because if I was going to do a route in the US, I don't want to call it an FKT because, you know, I might take a day longer than David Hedges to do it. But that would be what I would want to do. I would want to do Nolan's 14. Whenever I lived in New York, I was making plans for trips to Colorado to start scoping out the route. I just think it's the closest route concept in the US to like a Bob Graham round. I love navigating, picking your own route. I just find that fascinating. And David went out and spent, you know, a few weeks just kind of dirtbagging it, learning the route. And I got to show a lot of respect for that. Kind of my favorite FKT of the year, Nolan's 14, but the you know, in any other year that might have been number one on the list, but hard to beat Carl Sabe's PCT. Ricky, what about you? What are you thinking?
I'm jumping in on Carl Sable's Pacific Crest Trail FKT because it's an astonishing time. He took 5 hours off Olsen's time. He took 6 hours off his own previous time. He put 8 hours, I think 8 hours or maybe 7 hours into string bean. You know, like they're quality athletes that he's going up against. You know, it's a brutal looking course. You know, like you said, the YouTube video was brilliant. The footage is brilliant. I just think it's one of the coolest things. And the man's a dentist, right? He's a dentist. He's not this elite pro, unbelievable, winning this. You know, he's just a dude that knows how to suffer, knows how to just run big miles every single day with trench foot, with whatever. He just keeps pushing through. He's proved himself in the Barkley Marathons, and then he just went and just smashed the Pacific Crest Trail. I just think that's going to take some beating. I think that's going to take some serious beating. And he timed it really well because I think Timothy Olsen is just after releasing this big thing with Adidas Terex to sort of say, yeah, I just got the record on the Pacific Trail. No, you didn't, man. Carl Sable hasn't. He took it. So the timing of it was perfect, even.
Yeah, and then Timmy Olsen, there was just a whole different feel to that PCT adventure for him. That was like I need something big so I can retire. You know, he's forever. He's one of these athletes that's done well and then forever kind of come across as, I can't achieve that anymore and I'm struggling to come to terms with it. And the PCT for him was like a retirement gig of sorts. Brian, what have you got?
First off, I mean, looking at the fastest known time website to see some of the nominees, I guess their pared down list of some of the ones that are in the running for this was kind of laughable, like you said. Like some of them are better called like local legend status because I didn't see many other attempts, or, you know, like, I mean, they're the ultimate local legend. Like they're badass things that they did, but there's not a lot of history. It's not well, like I can't even, I don't know what it is, right? So other than these ones that we've talked about right now already, these two, you know, they have cachet. They come up every year, it seems like, especially with Nolan's, right? Whether there's a successful attempt or multiple failed attempts, somebody within the ultra running or trail running scene is going after it or targeting it or talking about it. So, you know, clearly that was the direction I was going to go for it. You know, what Carl did obviously was outstanding. But just being an FKT that's more relatable. I mean, it's not relatable to me, but I can understand in the context of our sport, the Nolan's one was what went with me, what I resonated with. But yeah, everything else felt like a local legend status. So good for them.
Yeah, I love that. Troy, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, the two that we've mentioned and kind of just beat up a little bit as far as all of us talking about it on the men's side. You know, I was stoked to see that Nolan 14 record set at Stout. And it's definitely gonna be something people are gonna be chasing after. And honestly, Carl is like the long trail. He's the through hike. I mean, he's these long trail specialists. I think he owns the AT as well. So it's like he just shows up to these things and does it like a robot and really gets it done. I think we'd be remiss not to talk about some of the things the ladies have done on the FKT nominations. So Claire Banwarth and what she did on the Colorado Trail after like all of the running she did this year. I think she went and did the Colorado Trail like a week after running Hard Rock and went and set the FKT there. That's just like kind of mind blowing. And if you take Courtney's year away, like all of a sudden what Claire managed to do from like a running standpoint and where she showed up and where she competed was pretty, I don't know, mind-blowing, just exceptional. And then, you know, I think for me, if I'm picking the women's FKT of the year, I think the Mont Blanc up and down that Hillary Giardi did was pretty special too. And I think that was with putting content together around that as well. And I know it's something she's tried to do in the past and came up short. And so I think she was able to really like put it together and dial it in. I think that also a kind of a combination of running and climbing and kind of in the pure sense of FKT and what Buzz and Peter were trying to do when they originally came up with the concept and kind of set up the site too. So
I actually saw her finish that FKT in Chamonix. I saw her finish it. I saw her finish it and all her little crew, video crew, everyone around her, and she was like just buzzing. I actually saw that like live. It was very, very cool. Yeah.
So did I. I was standing at the church when she finished. I was watching the tracker. If you must have been hiding because you didn't want to buy me a coffee or something. You're bloody skinflint, you. Hiding in your freaking tent till she's near the finish. Anyway, guys, look, it's been a fun 7 episodes. We've hit the trail running scene hopefully with a bang in the past few months. I hope you guys personally have a great Christmas or holiday or whatever you want to call it. It's Christmas for me. We'll see you in the new year.
Merry Christmas, right, guys. Have a good New Year.
Thanks for making it to the end of the show. We hope you really enjoyed it. It was fun for us. Why don't you scroll down to the comments and let us know what you think of our hot takes on Courtney, your favourite shoes, FKT of the year, you know, all of that stuff. We would love to know what you think. We would also love it if you shared the show with a friend, if you clicked like, and if you left us a comment, subscribe, do all of that stuff. Anyway, guys, have a great Christmas. We love you. Peace.